The process of reporting on early childhood outcomes in Missouri began as a pilot program with 8 school districts in 2006. It has remained a federal reporting requirement for any school district providing early childhood special education services to children. In addition, ECHO data are useful for program improvement activities at the local and state levels. This series of 7 modules is designed to give practitioners an understanding of the early childhood outcomes process. Each module is designed to be approximately 20 minutes long, making it possible to do one at a time or all of them in a half day. Participants are encouraged to start and stop these modules at any time in order to have discussion with other participants or to make notes on something you've seen or heard. The companion documents mentioned throughout the series are available on the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education DESE website on the Office of Childhood webpage, linked located at the bottom of this slide. The objectives of this module series include providing districts with an understanding of why outcome data is collected, defining 3 outcome areas, providing districts with an understanding of the differences between discrete skills and looking at those skills from the lens of functional abilities, identifying the 3 sources of information that should be used to collect ECHO information, providing districts with an understanding of the process for collecting information, determining a rating, and reporting that rating, providing districts with an understanding of how to use their outcome data for program improvements. Welcome to Module 5. In this module, we will introduce the concept of age anchoring. As mentioned in the first module, the ultimate goal of early intervention in early childhood special education is to enable young children to be active and successful participants in a variety of settings during the early childhood years and into the future. In order for this to happen, teams involved in working with these children benefit from discussing how each child uses his or her skills to function in different settings and situations. In those discussions, it's important to consider age-expected development in order to understand to what degree the child is using age-expected skills in those settings. These discussions are also essential for quality early childhood outcome ratings. Age anchoring is the process of examining a child's functional abilities, skills, and behaviors and determining how close that functioning is to what is expected for the child's chronological age. This module will provide a brief overview of the age anchoring process. In this module, participants will understand the process of thinking about the sequences of development common at a particular age in order to age anchor the functional skills observed for outcome ratings. The concept that skills build on each other and provide a foundation leading up to the acquisition of age-expected skills. Teams will be able to categorize functioning as not yet primary or foundational skills, primary level or intermediate foundation skills, or age-expected skills. Finally, module participants will understand the importance of looking at functional abilities rather than discrete, isolated skills when considering age-expected behaviors. Let's start by revisiting the overall process and how the pieces in this module fit into the bigger picture. First, the team gathers information from multiple sources to have the background to understand the child's functioning across settings and situations. For a recap about the kinds of information teams gather, reference Module 3. Next, team members prepare to make these ratings in various ways. This starts by reviewing information that's been gathered about the child, information about what's expected in 3 outcome areas, and what is developmentally appropriate for the child based on his or her age. Professionals on the team will want to connect and confirm that they have full breadth of data needed. They will decide if more information is needed about areas with ambiguous information and plan involvement with the family and any other team members. The preparation of families should include sharing and discussing background information such as the flyer, infographic, and questions for the family to consider in advance of the team meeting. All of these resources have been shared in other modules and can be found at the link referenced on the first slide of this module. The team, membership, and qualities of effective team discussion was covered in Module 4. The process of determining a rating will be discussed in Module 6. While this process looks complicated and overwhelming, much of this is already occurring in the discussions you're currently having. In this training, we focus on considering age-expected skills when gathering data on 3 outcome areas for each child. The process also includes families and other providers in the rating discussions. Once you view all of the modules 1 to 7, you will begin to understand how targeted and helpful these outcomes could be for designing preschool activities and the IEPs for the students in your programs. When looking at the process of age anchoring, teams and individuals need to understand the age at which children typically acquire different skills. The rating process requires an understanding of the timing and sequences of development that enable children to have positive social relationships, acquire and use knowledge and skills, and take action to meet their needs. For example, children typically play next to their peers before they meaningfully interact with them. In addition to child development occurring in predictable sequences, we also know that children typically acquire skills within a certain time frame. Each child will develop in unique ways depending on the child's personality, context, and experiences. Walking is another example of this developmental time frame. Most children learn to walk around 12 to 18 months of age. The rating process requires that team members understand both the sequence in which children acquire skills or milestones and the age range in which they should acquire them. Team members will be asked to think about how the child's functioning compares with what would be expected for a child his or her age. As professionals in the early childhood special education world, we may need to periodically be reminded of the ages and stages of typical development in the preschool population because our sense of when these skills or milestones emerge impact the understanding of age-expected development. There are a variety of resources available to help teams ground their knowledge of when children develop various skills. If team members need additional information about child development, we encourage them to consult the many resources available. It is important to use these resources to ensure that the perception of age-expected development is accurate and common among all staff members. A variety of resources are noted at the end of this module. Here's an example of a child development milestone resource that illustrates what skills are age-expected for children at a specific age. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, publishes family-friendly developmental milestone charts for children from infancy through 5 years of age. There are many other developmental milestone resources available, a few of which are listed at the end of this presentation. It is a good idea for school districts to come to a consensus about which resources will be used to assist in determining developmental milestones so everyone involved in working with the child is using the same information. As noted in one of the first slides, age anchoring is the process of examining a child's functional abilities, skills, and behaviors and determining how close that functioning is to the functioning expected for the child's chronological age. Development in all 3 outcome areas follows a predictable trajectory, with most children acquiring skills gradually and sequentially. These are known as developmental sequences. Age anchoring examines how close a given child's functioning is to the point in the developmental sequences that would be expected for that child's age. Understanding and using a solid age anchoring process is important for reasons other than making quality early childhood outcome ratings. Age anchoring also will help you and your team, including the family, to develop functional IEP goals and to provide instruction that leads to functional outcomes. A good age anchoring process allows parents to understand their child's development in relation to their same age peers. Additionally, age anchoring supports inclusion of students with disabilities in programs for typically developing students because it helps teams understand the support that may be needed to maximize a child's participation in a setting with same age peers functioning at the age expected level. Age anchoring requires teams to gather information about child functioning across settings, use child development resources to ground the discussion in age-expected functioning, and review the information about the child and discuss how it relates to what is expected for the child's age. The team will compare skills they see with the developmental milestones and talk about how close or far the child's skills are from what is expected in each of the 3 outcomes. Remember that it's necessary to gather information about the child's skills from all aspects of his or her life because it's common for young children to demonstrate skills in one setting but not another. For example, some children will talk at home but not when at school or around other children and adults. In order to have rich discussion about a child's progression towards age-expected development, it is important for everyone to have the same understanding of the terms used in Missouri to describe the skills sequences on that pathway. We need to have the definitions of age-expected, primary, and not yet primary when referring to the children's functional skill development. Some resources we have provided access to in these modules use the terms immediate foundational and foundational to describe the primary and not yet primary levels of development, so we have provided both terms. There are different ways to describe children's functioning. These 3 terms are important to understand and apply when reviewing the criteria for the 5 ECHO rating categories. These definitions will appear on the materials you will use when making an early childhood outcomes rating, more specifically on the Missouri Definitions of Early Childhood Outcomes page and the Missouri Outcomes Summary Sheet, otherwise known as the MOS form. When using the term age-expected skills, we are referring to skills and behaviors that most children can do when they reach a certain chronological age. We would use this term when children are doing exactly what we would expect based on their age. The term primary level, sometimes referred to as immediate foundational skills, refers to skills and behaviors that occur developmentally just prior to age-expected skills and behaviors. This is the level of skill you would expect to see just before the student develops and uses the skills that is age-expected. When using the term not yet primary to describe a level of skill, sometimes referred to as foundational skills, we are referring to skills and behaviors occurring in early development that are conceptually mapped to later skills and behaviors. These skills serve as a foundation for later skill development, but they are 2 or more steps away in sequence of development from what is age expected. This visual represents how one skill forms the foundation for a later skill. Development occurs in predictable sequences, and a child's current skill level can be described with regard to where the child is in the sequence. This graphic shows the relationship between the 3 levels of skills used most when referring to the level at which a child is functioning. Note that the not yet primary level skill provides the basis for later skill development, and that primary level skills come just before age-expected skills in the sequence. Not yet primary level skills are frequently the skills chosen for intervention for children showing delays to help them move closer to age-expected development. For the early childhood outcomes process, individuals within the team need to understand child development and the sequence in which skills develop. To reach a rating, teams will need to think about whether the child's skills and behaviors in each outcome area are at an age-expected, primary, or not yet primary level. These definitions are the key criteria teams use when making outcome ratings. You will note the use of the word primary level skills in the description of a 2 rating and the words not yet primary in the descriptions for a rating of 1. This definition page, along with other resources available on the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education website, will be highlighted in Module 6. This example illustrates the importance of understanding the vocabulary used on the resources when making ECHO ratings. Let's look at an example to better understand these terms. As previously noted, age-expected skills are exactly what the phrase says. They are the skills and behaviors that most children of a particular chronological age can do. For example, if a family acquaintance were to ask a 5-year-old child his name and where he lives, and the child can recite his full name and address, he would be demonstrating age-expected skills for a child who is 5 years old. If a 4-year-old were asked the same question, we would expect him to be able to recite his first and last name, but not his address to be an age-expected level for a 4-year-old. To be at an age-expected level on the same skill, a 3-year-old child should be able to say his or her first name if someone asks, "What's your name?" Primary level skills, also known as immediate foundational skills, are skills and behaviors that come just before age-expected skills in development. To understand primary level skills, let's consider the example of a child who is 5 years old. On the last slide, we indicated that a 5-year-old should be able to tell someone his or her full name and address. Let's use the example of Tara. Tara is 5 years old. She is able to tell the security guard at the mall her first and last name, but cannot provide him with her address when she gets separated from her parents at the mall. In our discussion about Tara, we would consider that saying your full name and address are age-expected skills for a 5-year-old. Therefore, the team may determine that Tara is not quite at the age-expected level, but is demonstrating primary level skills in this particular skill area at this time. You can see on the milestone chart that the skill Tara is demonstrating comes just before the age-expected skill. Or, shown another way, the skill Tara is demonstrating is the step just before the age-expected skill if you think about these skills in a stair-step sequence. This might be a skill we would be looking at for outcome area 2. Children acquire and use knowledge and skills. This would not be the only skill we would use to make a rating for this outcome area, but it would be one of the age-expected functional skills we might talk about in our team discussion about the rating for this outcome area. Not yet primary level skills occur much earlier in the developmental sequence of skills. These are skills that form the foundation for later skill development. When considering our example of providing personal information, let's look at the example of Kai, who is 5 years old. Kai is only able to tell the security guard his first name when he becomes separated from his parents at the mall. Once again, we know that a 5-year-old should be able to tell someone his or her full name and address when asked. In our discussion about Kai, we would want to look at what is age expected for this skill and then determine at what level Kai is demonstrating this skill with the help of a developmental milestone resource of some kind. A 5-year-old who is routinely only able to tell someone his first name would be displaying skills that would fall in the not yet primary level of developmental sequence of this particular functional skill. If looking at the stair-step model, Kai is demonstrating skills that are 2 or more steps below what would be expected of a 5-year-old. Again, this would not be the only skill we would use to make ratings for this outcome area, but it would be one of the age-expected functional skills we might talk about in our team discussion about rating for outcome area 2. When determining the level of skill the child is demonstrating in any particular area, we will be considering what they routinely do with those skills in their everyday activities and on an independent level, not what they do under ideal conditions in a staged or isolated situation. Let's use the example of play skills to illustrate the thought process when working through age-anchoring functional skills. Based on what we know from our developmental sequences chart, we know that children begin by playing independently from the other children who might be in the same room. They gradually begin to play near others, occasionally interacting with them, but there's no real intention or cooperation happening. Eventually, by the time children are between 4 and 5 years old, they begin to play cooperatively with other children. There is intention in their activities. They cooperate and play together. In order to establish where children are in this sequence for play, we would need to observe them in multiple situations over time to determine at what stage in play development the student is most often functioning. It would be helpful to get information from others who see the child outside of the school setting as well. Again, based on our developmental milestone resources, we know that parallel play, where a child may play alongside another child or near another child but not really interact with them, is common in children who are somewhere in the range of 2 to 3 years old. By the time a child is between 3 and 4 years old, she should be in the associate play stage. In this stage, children start to interact with others in some degree, but there's not much cooperation in their play at this point. Cooperative play, where the children have an interest in the activities of others and being involved in those activities, happens somewhere between the ages of 4 and 5. It is important for those observing children to understand what is expected at each of these ages and ranges and play stages. It would not be appropriate for us to assume a 3-year-old should be playing cooperatively with others in a group. That may actually be happening, but the child is not delayed if he or she is not doing that at 3 years old. Age anchoring is a thinking and discussion process. It starts with clear examples of the child's functioning and a good understanding of the skills expected for the child's chronological age. Understanding and using developmental sequences is essential to age anchoring. Considering developmental sequences helps teams understand how close or how far a child is to age expectations. In the next several slides, we will work through the process of age anchoring play skills for a student named Jacob. Let's consider what we know about Jacob. Jacob is a 54-month-old boy who is often in the block center building towers alongside other children. He is in the same location as the group, but plays by himself most of the time. Occasionally, he will interact with others by helping them stack or unstack blocks, commenting, "Now it's big," or "Do it again." In the next slide, let's take a deeper look at where Jacob appears to be functioning in the area of play skills. Let's first look at what is age expected and play skills for a child who is 4 years, 6 months old. This will give the team a clear benchmark for measuring how close or how far a child is to age expected development. Age expected behavior in the area of play for a 4-year-old involves the child playing with others and showing the interest in both the activity and involvement in the activity with others most of the time. What are some examples of this behavior that you might see a 4-year-old child doing? Are they talking with other children? Is there an intent and purpose to their interactions? Think about these questions and jot down your answer or share them with others in the room. Pause the video for this activity. For children who are not quite at the cooperative level of play, what do you see them doing? Are they still at the stage of playing on their own, not really involving or interacting with others? Are they beginning to play cooperatively, perhaps during certain activities? Again, jot down your answers or show your thoughts with others in the room. Pause the video for this activity. Remember that school personnel are taking opportunities to document these examples to share with other team members when discussing this child. Those other team members include the families, who hopefully will have their own examples of how they see their child playing with others outside of the school environment. In the next slide, let's take a deeper look at where Jacob appears to be functioning in the area of play. Once the whole team is clear on what is age expected in a particular skill area, the discussion should focus on observations of the child's functioning within that skill and determine how close to or how far away from age expected the child seems to be functioning. We would ask ourselves in a series of questions starting with, is Jacob demonstrating what is age expected in the area of play for a 4-year-old child? The limited information we have for this example indicates that Jacob plays in the same area as his same age peers, but does not routinely interact and exchange ideas and play with other children. I think most teams would conclude he is not demonstrating what would be expected of a 4-year-old child when it comes to play skills. The next question would be, is he doing what comes just before age expected? Here's where the team might need to have a discussion. We know that generally between the ages of 3 to 4, children are starting to interact with each other, but there is not much cooperation noted in their play. In other words, they may play in the same locations, occasionally interacting with each other, but that interaction is not generally planned or coordinated when it happens. We would expect to have multiple observation examples from both parents or other caregivers and school personnel to support that Jacob, in fact, is demonstrating this level of skill in most situations. When answering the question, is Jacob doing what is just before age expected in the area of play, I believe most teams would answer yes. We would conclude that in the area of play skills, Jacob is demonstrating skills at the primary level, indicating he is just before age expectancy for those skills. We can check ourselves by noting that Jacob is frequently doing more than just playing beside other children with no interaction. If that were the case, we would say he was demonstrating play skills more typical of a 2 to 3-year-old, and we would come to the conclusion that he is demonstrating not yet primary level skills in the area of play. But through the team discussion, based on multiple observations in various settings, we have concluded he is one step beyond that and is demonstrating primary level skills for play. Just as a quick recap of thinking and discussing that goes in on the age anchoring process, let's review. Age anchoring involves practitioners working through this illustrated thinking process while considering the child's functioning in a particular skill area. These discussions are based on multiple observations across multiple settings, not just one observation on one day in one isolated setting. The discussion begins with shared understanding of what behaviors and skills are expected at the current chronological age of the child. If the team's answer to the question, is the child doing what is age expected, is yes, the process stops. If the answer is no, the discussion moves to whether or not the child is demonstrating skills that would typically be seen just before age expected skills, known as primary level skills. If in this discussion about the student the answer is yes, again, the process stops. If the answer is no, or the team is not sure, the team should also discuss what functioning is typical of the children who are at the not yet primary level of skill with their behavior in that skill area. A consensus should be reached regarding the level of skill which most appropriately fits the student in that particular skill area based on what is observed. Keep in mind, this is all based on what is age expected for the chronological age of the child for whom the discussion is being held. It is also important to remember that children may demonstrate a mix of age-appropriate and not yet age-appropriate skills in any area of development, and the team must agree on how much of the time the children functions at one skill level versus the other. You have seen this breadth of the 3 outcomes resources in previous modules. It is listed on the resource slide, and the full version can be accessed on the DESE website via the link provided on the resource slide. This tool can be a valuable resource in age anchoring process. Families, caregivers, and school providers could all use this resource ahead of any team meeting to begin to think about the skills represented in each outcome area and gather documentation of the child's use of these skills in functional ways. Using this document involves looking at the array of skills children have in each outcome area, not just one skill in any of the areas. If evidence shows that a child is demonstrating most skills at a particular level, it might be wise to focus on the skills the child is demonstrating that are not at that particular level and age anchor those skills rather than spending time trying to age anchor those which you already know are going to fall into the same level. It is never necessary, nor will it be possible, to age anchor every single skill the child is demonstrating. This infographic may help both individuals and teams decide which skills are pertinent to the child's participation in meaningful activities in each of the 3 outcome areas. This process will feel cumbersome at first, but will become more comfortable as individuals and teams become more familiar with developmental milestones and using that information to observe and take notes on what children are actually doing. Teachers, parents, related service providers, and anyone else familiar with the child could use this note version of the infographic to record areas of strength or areas where the child is functioning at age expected level, as well as to record skill areas where there are some concerns. This resource could help focus this discussion about the child's current needs and how best to serve them. It is available at the link provided on the resource page of this module. The concept of age anchoring may be new to many early childhood practitioners in Missouri. Understanding the elements of good age anchoring will not only help when teams are required to make echo ratings, it will allow for the use of this information at other times when planning and programming for the children with whom we work. Good age anchoring conversations start with the team having a solid, shared understanding of what is expected for a child of that age, as well as the sequence of development. Numerous resources are available for teams to review. It is suggested that each program adopt the use of the same resource for consistency. Good age anchoring involves gathering information through observations done by a variety of people who interact with the child on a regular basis. Those observations should come from a variety of settings whenever possible, so parents and others have a more complete picture of the child. That information is shared not only in meetings specifically for making a rating, but also revising IEPs or determining progress for a child. It becomes part of what we do to have meaningful conversations about IEP goals and progress towards those goals. When speaking or writing about what children are doing, it's best to use good, descriptive information about what the child is doing in various settings in relation to his or her skills. For example, it is better to say, Johnny uses phrases such as, please help me, that's my book, or I like blue, rather than just to say, Johnny uses words to communicate. In summary, age anchoring requires ECHO teams to consider developmental sequences when making determinations about how close or how far a child is functioning relative to age expectations for each of the 3 outcome areas. Age anchoring is an important part of high-quality ECHO process and is necessary for determining ECHO ratings. And age anchoring helps practitioners be more effective in planning interventions, tracking progress, and explaining development to families. Based on the information provided in this module, answer these reflective questions with a partner, a small group, or if you're viewing this individually, take some notes on your thoughts. What age anchoring resources do you currently use or could you use to ground discussions about each child's progress? There are several examples shared here. How might the Missouri Early Learning Standards help you talk with families about age-expected functioning and the level of specific skills their child is using? This concludes Module 5 on age anchoring. In Module 6, we'll discuss making ECHO ratings using the resources we have outlined in previous modules. The resources listed on this slide were used in preparation of this module.